For 15 years. My face never made it onto the Christmas card. Not once. Every December, my parents mailed out glossy photos, matching sweaters, perfect smiles, gold foil letters that read, "Love the Harris family." Mom, Dad, my little sister, a perfect family of 3, like I never existed. And here's the part that still makes my hands shake. Last month, my grandmother's lawyer called me and said, "They erased you on purpose." I was 7 the first time I noticed. The photographer came to our house. Mom curled my sister's hair. Dad adjusted his tie. I stood in the hallway holding the sweater Mom told me to wear. Then she looked at me and said, "Sweetheart, why don't you sit this one out? We're just doing a small one this year." A small one. That small one lasted 15 years. Every Christmas I'd watch them pose. Every Christmas I'd hear the shutter click. Every Christmas I'd wait for someone to say, "Come here, honey." They never did. At school, friends would bring in their family cards. "Where are you?" They'd ask, laughing. I'd laugh too, but inside something was breaking. By 16, I stopped waiting. By 18, I moved out. By 22, I stopped calling. They didn't chase me. They didn't fight for me. They just let me disappear. Then Grandma died. She was the only one who ever noticed. She used to whisper, "You matter. Don't you forget that." I didn't realize she'd been watching everything until her lawyer called. He asked me to come to his office alone. I almost didn't go, but something in his voice felt urgent. When I sat down, he slid a thick envelope across the desk. "Your grandmother left detailed instructions," he said, "including a letter explaining why your parents excluded you." My hands were trembling when I opened it. Inside were copies of every Christmas card my parents had ever sent. But these weren't the ones people received. These were the originals, in every single one. I was there, standing between them, smiling. And then, next to each photo, Grandma had written 3 words in red ink. Edited, cropped, removed. The lawyer leaned forward. "Your parents received a substantial yearly payment from your grandfather's estate," he said, "but only under one condition." I swallowed. They were required to keep the family image marketable. You see, my grandfather built a regional retail chain. Public image meant everything. Investors, community boards, charity galas. And when I was 7, I was diagnosed with a visible medical condition that affected my appearance for several years. Not life-threatening, not contagious, just not perfect. My parents were advised that presenting a unified, polished image would protect business partnerships. So, they made a choice. And that choice was me. Grandma found out. She fought them. They refused to change. So she changed her will instead. The lawyer slid another document across the table. They forfeited their inheritance the moment they removed you from the first card. I blinked. What? They never knew. Your grandmother redirected everything. Everything. Properties, investments, the remaining shares of the company, to me, on one condition, that I confront them in person. I hadn't been home in 3 years. When I walked in, Mom froze. Dad looked older. My sister avoided my eyes. "I went to see Grandma's lawyer," I said calmly. Dad stiffened. Mom forced a smile. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful." I placed the stack of original, unedited Christmas photos on the table. "You forgot something," I said. Silence. Dad's hands started shaking. Mom's face drained of color. "You told people I didn't want to be in the pictures," I continued. "You told them I was shy, difficult, independent." I slid the inheritance documents beside the photos. Grandma saw the originals. That's when Dad whispered, "You don't understand the pressure we were under." "Pressure," I laughed. "For 15 years?" Mom started crying, but I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt clarity. "You chose reputation over your daughter," I said. and Grandma chose justice. Then I told them the final part. The company shares had controlling interest, meaning I now owned the majority stake in the business they protected by erasing me. Dad's hands shook so hard he had to sit down. "You're not going to..." he started. I smiled softly. "I'm not going to destroy it." Pause. "I'm going to rebrand it." And the first campaign? Real families, real stories, nothing cropped, featuring families of all backgrounds, all appearances, all differences, billboards, commercials, national press, and on the launch day. The very first image released, the original unedited Christmas photo, with me standing in the center. They didn't lose everything, but they lost control. They lost the narrative, and for the first time in 15 years, I wasn't invisible. I was undeniable. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because sometimes the people who try to erase you are the very ones who set the stage for your comeback. They thought the story was over. They thought once I walked out of that house, inheritance papers signed, company transferred, campaign launched, that was the climax. It wasn't, because revenge isn't loud. It's strategic. The first board meeting under my control was scheduled 2 weeks later. My parents arrived early. They always did. Dad had spent his entire life sitting at the head of that polished mahogany table. Investors trusted him. Employees feared him. Mom handled public relations. Polite smile, perfect tone, always camera ready. When I walked in, the room shifted. Not because I raised my voice, not because I made a scene, but because for the first time, I sat in the center chair. Dad's old seat. He tried to maintain composure. "You don't have to do this publicly," he murmured. "We can keep this in the family." I looked at him evenly. "You removed me publicly." Silence. Then I began. "Effective immediately," I said, voice steady. "We're launching a full transparency initiative. No more curated perfection. No more ideal family branding. We represent real people now." One board member cleared his throat. "That's risky," I smiled. "Actually, it's profitable." I clicked the remote. The screen lit up with market research, data, consumer trends, surveys showing that 72% of younger buyers preferred brands that embraced authenticity over polish. "We're not selling an image anymore," I continued. "We're building trust." Dad stared at the numbers, because this wasn't emotional. It was smart. The campaign exploded. Nothing cropped. It trended for weeks. Families began sending in their own unedited photos. Scars, birthmarks, wheelchairs, vitiligo, hearing aids, stretch marks, mixed families, adopted families, real families. News outlets picked it up. Talk shows called, and then a national morning show invited me for an interview. The host asked the question everyone was thinking. What inspired this shift? I paused, and for a moment, I considered protecting them. Then I remembered being 7 years old in that hallway holding a sweater no one wanted to see on camera. My parents once believed perfection was more valuable than presence, I said calmly. I learned that authenticity builds something stronger. I never said their names. I didn't have to. The internet connected the dots within hours. The backlash against them was quiet, but devastating. Investors who had admired their polished image now questioned their ethics. Old charity boards distanced themselves. Their social circle shrank, not because I attacked them, but because the truth stood on its own. One night, Mom called. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "We didn't think it would hurt you like this," she whispered. I closed my eyes. "That's the problem," I said. "You didn't think about me at all." She cried. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to comfort her. Months later, Dad requested a private meeting, not at the house, not at the office, at a small cafe across town. When I arrived, he looked smaller somehow. I was wrong. he said without preamble. No excuses, no pressure, just those 3 words. It didn't erase 15 years, but it shifted something. I thought protecting the business meant protecting the family, he admitted. I didn't realize I was sacrificing you. I studied his face. For once, there was no performance in it. I can't give you those years back, he said quietly. But I don't want to lose the rest. And that was the real punchline. Revenge had already happened. Not because I destroyed them, not because I humiliated them, but because I built something so strong. They had to face what they'd broken. That Christmas, for the first time. We took a photo together. No stylist, no photographer from a magazine, just a tripod in the living room. Mom didn't ask me to step aside. Dad didn't adjust my position. My sister stood next to me, nervous but smiling. When the timer flashed, I didn't feel invisible. I felt present. And when the cards were mailed out, there was no gold foil, no scripted perfection, just one simple line printed underneath the picture. Together, all of us. Some people think revenge means burning everything down. Sometimes, it means becoming so undeniable that the people who tried to erase you have to rewrite the story with you in it. If this story hit you in the chest, share it. Because somewhere out there, someone is still standing in a hallway holding a sweater, waiting to be seen.